Why? What's going on here?
My husband spoke to my father with a surprised expression that I had never seen before.
I said exactly what I meant. And as if for you, Mike, it's time for you to leave the company.
I was watching this chaotic situation with a feeling that all the struggles I had gone through were finally paying off. My name is Rebecca, a 35-year-old housewife. I have a 12-year-old daughter named Pearl, who is going through a sensitive phase right now. Although we sometimes clash, we also have many moments when she helps with household chores and our parent-child relationship is good. I was born to my parents, who owned a small trading company. After graduating from high school and junior college, I started working at an advertising agency. I intended to take over my parents' company someday, but I deliberately chose a general company to gain work experience first. I met my husband Mike at a group blind date. He was bright, talkative, and always cheered everyone up. I was rather shy and was attracted to his charm that I didn't have. Moreover, he was highly educated, graduated from a famous university, and was an elite businessman at a famous company at that time. I was swept off my feet by his intense approach, and we got married without any trouble. After we got married, he became the executive officer to take over my father's company, and I supported our family at home. The company was doing well, and he was expected to become the president eventually. However, things changed around the time when our daughter Pearl was born. It was my first time raising a child. I was busy taking care of her day and night. The days without sleep continued when she started to cry at night. My husband was cold to me as I struggled every day to take care of my daughter, with dark circles under my eyes.
What's with that horrible look on your face? You were already finished as a woman.
One day, I became furious at my husband's heartless remark, and we got into an argument. You could at least participate a little. You don't help at all. Just saying you have work every day.
That's because I'm being used by someone's father, isn't it? Don't blame others, you fatso.
I was about to throw the bowl I had in my hand at my husband, but I snapped out of it when Pearl started crying. After this argument, my relationship with my husband became increasingly strained. Instead of helping with household chores and childcare, he started leaving the house for work more and more often. I had a vague feeling that it wasn't really work he was going to. The reason I didn't divorce him at the time was salary for my daughter's sake. I also didn't want to worry my parents. When my husband was at home, he always locked himself in his room and never came out. In addition, he started harassing me at some point.
Here, this is the monthly living expenses.
My husband handed me only $600 and said calmly with a mean smile in response to my angry reaction. What? You expect me to live on this for a month?
You're not working, so try to manage with this.
With a child, we couldn't even cover our food expenses with just this much. I managed to get by with the savings I had accumulated during my single days. Such situations continued frequently, but my husband was only good on the surface. He always acted like a good employee and husband in front of my parents and other colleagues. One day, at my wit's end, I tried to talk to my parents about my husband, but he always showed a kind and reliable side in front of them, so they didn't believe me. In fact, they ended up scolding me, saying that maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. I struggled with housework and child rearing in isolation. By the time Pearl became an elementary school student, I started helping my parents' company. However, the work was extremely hard. My husband always went out saying he was on a business trip and left me alone to do his share of the work. I worked hard without complaining for my daughter's sake and to avoid worrying my parents. As time passed and Pearl became a middle school student, a small conflict arose in our home. Pearl had finally witnessed my husband's infidelity. I had already been disappointed in my husband for quite some time and had noticed the presence of the other woman here and there. However, I couldn't be sure because of my concern for my daughter, and I had always let it go. But one day, Pearl saw her father walking with another woman in the shopping mall. When she came home, she immediately asked her father, "Dad, who is that person?" "The woman you were walking with in the mall," my husband answered without showing any remorse.
She's one of my friends.
"Really? Is she really just a friend?" And my husband suddenly raised his voice.
If I say she is my friend, then she's my friend. Don't you interfere in adults' affairs.
When my husband slammed his hand on the table, our daughter flinched. "Mom, please don't wash Dad's clothes with mine," my daughter said to me before going to her room.
I'm going to be the president of this company. It's natural to have one or two women.
I was dumbfounded by my husband's frank admission of infidelity. From that day on, the number of times I had to run the washing machines increased, even though I was already busy. In the midst of this, it was decided that the company's 20th anniversary events would be held. My husband continued to be absent from home, citing work. He even ordered me like this:
You're going to be in charge of this anniversary event. Got it? If you embarrass me, I won't tolerate it.
He pushed all the responsibility for organizing the anniversary event onto me. My workload became even more difficult than before. Fortunately, the staff helped me, but I still had to work until late at night every day. One day, I finished work as usual and started doing housework. As I was about to sit down to eat dinner with my daughter, everything went blank. When I came to, I was lying in a hospital bed. My body had finally given out. My parents and my daughter and parents looked at me with concern. "Mom, are you okay? The doctor said it's overwork. I can't get Dad on the phone. I've called him dozen times already." "I see. Maybe your dad must be busy." Just then, a phone call came in from my husband.
What are you slacking off for? What are you going to do if it affects the event? Can you take responsibility for taking time off, huh?
He berated me and then abruptly hung up the phone. I didn't feel anything anymore. He was just a stranger hiding behind a husband's mask. Then I realized tears were streaming down my face. My daughter noticed and asked, "Mom, what's wrong? Did Dad say something terrible again?" Seeing the worried look of me and my daughter, my parents asked,
Rebecca, what's going on?
I didn't feel the need to hide anything and told my parents everything that had been going on for years. That my husband has been neglecting our family, not doing his job, and being cruel to my daughter. And nobody understands my pain. My parents listened quietly until I finished. Then they apologized to me.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. I didn't realize you were suffering that much. Please tell us anything you need from now on, okay?
We'll always be on your side, my father continued.
The event is also ready to go. We can leave the rest of the other stuff.
I decided to take my parents' words, and at the same time, I made up my mind to settle things with my husband for his mistreatment of me. I hired a private detective, and evidence of my husband's infidelity was quickly found. Furthermore, it was revealed that his business trips, which he claimed were for work, were actually just an excuse. Through his patterns of behavior and receipts, we were able to gather a large amount of solid evidence. I also consulted a lawyer and made sure to understand the maximum amount of compensation I could receive. I planned to demand compensation for not only his affair, but also the damages he caused to his company with his fake business trips. I showed all the evidence I had collected to my parents. After they were shocked, they became furious.
He deserves to pay for what he's done.
I decided to fight my husband for divorce, but my father told me something as the event was approaching next week.
Rebecca, I understand that you want to divorce him as soon as possible. However, please bear with me a little. I have an idea.
So, I decided to trust my father and leave it to him. The day of the anniversary event arrived. We welcomed many guests from various places, and it became a grand event. There was even the appearance of the mayor. In such a glamorous setting, my husband was very proud, even though he hadn't done anything himself. After the greetings were over, the reception-style dinner began. I was with my daughter at my parents' table. Then, my husband came over boldly and said to my father with great pride,
"How do you like the party I organized?" "Ah, it's quite something. This party is special, and it's our 20th anniversary, so it has to be exceptional." "Sure, leave it to me."
Upon hearing my husband brown-nosing my father, my daughter chimed in. "Dad, that's all a lie. You didn't do anything. Mom did. Grandpa, he also has a crush on someone else, you know? I saw him with a woman at the mall, and it wasn't Mom." My husband glared at his daughter and said in a low voice,
"Pearl, didn't I tell you before? Don't meddle in grown-up affairs."
With a smirk, he returned to my father and said,
No worries, sir. It's just childish talk. Anyway, about my promotion to CEO. Oh, yes, that? Sure. Wait for the announcement of the new personnel changes after this."
My father, not to be outdone by his son-in-law, also had a creepy smile on his face. It was a pretty strange sight. And as the party entered its final phase, it was finally time for the announcement of the personnel changes by the current president, who happened to be my father. While my husband awaited the announcement with a glass of wine in hand, looking quite pleased with himself, my family and I stared at him as if he were a bitter pill to swallow. He no longer seemed like family to us. Then my father began his speech.
"Thank you all for coming to our company's 20th anniversary celebration, despite your busy schedules. Today, I, William Tucker, have decided to retire as president and pass on the torch to my successor."
The room felt silent, waiting for my father's words to sink in. My husband's face was already beaming with a smile, eagerly waiting for the announcement.
"I hereby appoint my daughter Rebecca as the new president."
The room erupted into loud applause after the announcement, and I could see the shock and disbelief on my husband's face as he stood there with his mouth hanging open. The party ended without incident, and as we started clearing up, my husband ran over to my father.
"Why? What's going on here?" "I said exactly what I meant. And as if for you, Mike, it's time for you to leave the company."
"What? How could this... Why?"
"You know the reasons better than anyone else."
"I have no idea what you're talking about."
This must be Rebecca's doing, isn't it?
He glared at me as he spoke.
Did you say something to your father about this?
What? No, I haven't done anything. I simply told my parents the truth. Then I scattered the documents I had in my hand on the floor. There were numerous photos of my husband's affair and evidence of his fake business trips. My husband's face turned pale as he saw them.
How could you get these? When did you...
While you were away on your business trip, of course. I've gathered all the evidence your infidelity and fake trips, so you can't deny it. Then my father picked up the evidence photos and spoke.
Well, this is how it is. We'll make sure to charge interest on the expense claims for your fake business trips. And as for the cost of your affair, you pay my daughter back. That's for sure. Wait a minute. Damn it. Rebecca, you...
My husband tried to hit me, but a passing guest accidentally tripped him and he fell hard on the floor.
You'll pay for this. Both of you.
Sure. We won't be seeing you anymore anyway. Please contact our lawyer from now on. With that, I handed my husband a business card for a law firm. The security guards, alerted by the commotion, then restrained him and escorted him out of the venue. A few months later, I successfully divorced my husband. After being kicked out of the house, my ex-husband struggled to find a new job. On top of that, he was burdened with a hefty settlement fee. However, I no longer had any connection to his difficulties, as long as he paid me the settlements as agreed. As for myself, I took over my father's company and have been steadily growing its business. My daughter, who has not suffered any damage from the divorce, enjoying a happy student life. To her, it was as if she had never had father in the first place. Mom, when I grow up, I will be a good enough person to be entrusted with this company. She said something so heartwarming. And there was one more happy event for me. I received a second marriage proposal in my life. The person was the one who tripped my ex-husband when he tried to attack me. His name was Hector, and he was the president of one of our company's clients. He was also a divorcee, and we hit it off. As we watched my husband being taken away by the security guard, he said,
A great party was almost ruined by him. It's a good thing that this commotion happened after the party.
Yes, he was really a terrible husband. He cheated, took fake business trips, and, as if I had relieved my burden, I somehow blurted out my life story to Hector.
Sounds like you've been through a lot, but looking at your daughter, it's all worth it. You are a good wife and a good mother.
Listening to our conversation, our daughter smiled happily. A few days later, he and our family ran into each other at a nearby cafe. We decided to have coffee together and had a great time with the three of us. That led to us having meals together. Even when my daughter wasn't with us, I realized how great he was each time we spent time together. The cause of his divorce was of his ex-wife's extravagant spending. We had been friends for a while, but one day he said to me,
I'd like to get to know each other better, if that's okay with you. Would you consider officially dating me? Oh, of course. I mean, if I can get Pearl's permission.
My daughter, who was beside us, immediately answered, Of course. That's a no-brainer. And things went smoothly like that, and we got married for the second time. Our married life is wonderful. My daughter no longer got angry when I washed the laundry altogether. Hector protector seemed to be fulfilling every wish that my daughter had. And she began to feel as if she was his daughter from the beginning. Mom, Dad, I want a baby sister. Given my age, it would be difficult to get pregnant. So, we decided to adopt a kitten as a solution. My daughter fell in love with a kitten at an animal shelter adoption event. We named her Cleo, and my daughter took care of her as if she were a real sister. I think I finally have a real family. Let's do our best to nurture this family with my beloved husband and the kitten. That's what I vowed in my heart.